since we're obviously it's summer and we're not in school, I watched a video and I had a rubric to kind of not grade, but just kind of like see if the teacher was hitting all the notes on being a culture responsive, or yeah, teacher. And I thought she did a really good job. I really liked it. During the video, you can kind of see posters around the room about different cultures. And there was one poster that had like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then under it, it had all the days of the week in Spanish too. And so I thought that was cool. I hadn't seen anything like that. Um,
What
and
grade was
also,
this?
I want to say I'd need to look. I want to say it was sixth.
Okay. So
It
like
was
upper elementary or middle school.
yeah, it was middle school, and the topic was they were reading two different texts that both centered around Venus. And then one of them was nonfiction and one of them was fiction. And she did a really good job of connecting both to the students' identities. There were some parts where I thought she could have done more. Like there was a moment where it's kind of like an eclipse, but Venus goes over the sun and there's like a little mole in the sun. And she asked her students if any of them had seen that. And a couple of them raised their hand and she just kind of went by it. But I thought she could have kind of been like, okay, well, what did you see? What were you doing? Like, was it cool? Just to kind of give the other students like a perspective that they can relate to other than a picture on the text that they're reading. Um, so I think she did a good job of relating the content to the nonfiction one to the students' lives, though, because she was asking questions like, why do you think because in the text, they lock, they like live on Venus and the sun only comes out every 7 years and a girl says it's gonna come out and all the whole classmates like no and they lock her in a closet. That's just kind of how normal stuff. That's just
Whatever.
kind
Fine.
of how she explained it in the little clip. And then she kind of was asking them like why would they have done this? And they brought up like jealousy, they brought up bullying, they brought up a bunch of stuff. So I thought that was good. The classroom atmosphere was I actually really liked because she had instead of tables, she had them set up in desks but they were also it was almost kind of like a little circle too.
Mhm.
So they weren't just facing one on one, like they were like in little groups. Um, and there were a lot of colors. It was just kind of warm and welcoming. Um, they were all very respectful to each other. Like when they had to pass out stuff, they were all smiling. And then she also gave them lots of opportunities to, if they needed to or wanted to, they could help each other, um, which I really liked just because, you're reading and then there were, like, especially with me, when I would read in class, I'd space out and then I'd get asked a question and I'd be like, and so, and
Well,
like being able to phone a friend and being like, what happened? And then answer her question was really cool to see. Um, so it kind of goes over that, um, and just the videos. And I just felt like she did a really good job with it.
did
Uh,
she group the kids in their desk mates, like the people in their little circle? That's how who they worked with, or did they choose their own? Did she group them herself? Like,
I don't, so it didn't give me that much because like it just kind of like cold cut into like welcome to the class.
mhm.
Um, but either way, that it looked to me like everybody was mixed up because like throughout the video it would pan to the desk and there was no like whispering and
Mhm.
back and forth. And if I got to pick where I sit and my friends sat together, we were talking.
Yeah.
So I'd say that it was intentional. Um, my progress, I feel like I'll pick up a lot faster after because we go to school in like 2 weeks. And then I know I'm like, oh, and then the routine, I'll get back into it because there's just, with like vacation and then there's just so much going on right now. I feel like once I have the routine and I'm like from this time to this time, I'm doing school every day.
Right.
Um, I'll do better with that.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about it, but I also am a worrier. So I'm not stressed about it, but it's definitely in the back of my head, like
Right.
when I'm going to sleep. Um, so I have two questions for you. And
Okay.
so the first one would be what is one way that you see yourself practicing culturally responsive teaching?
Um, because, I'm a behavior interventionist, so my kids come and go, and we don't actually have like a class, although this year we will have a class at the very beginning of the day. What I try to keep in mind with all of my kids, and because they have IEPs, we know a little bit more about their backgrounds than you may know as a general ed teacher. But a
Mhm.
lot of ours come from trauma, come from some bad situations. And so just trying to make sure that I keep that at the forefront of what we're doing. Um, Making sure that like if I know a kid is screamed and yelled at all day long,
Right.
that's not going to do any good for me to
Mm-mm.
scream and yell at them.
No, no.
Surprisingly enough, it doesn't really do any good for any kid, even if they haven't been in trauma. But, if I know that a kid responds better to a male figure and they're just having a really hard day, then I may be like, hey, Mr. Powers, can you come have a talk with this kid? Because so it's not so much just culture, like we think of culture, but like just their what they come from, where in
Mhm.
their trauma backgrounds and things is what I have to worry about a lot.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of kids that I don't have any kids right now that speak like a different language that I have to be
Mhm.
concerned about. Uh, I do have kids that, come from, not surprisingly, different political ideations. So, like, I had a kid last year talking about how he was going to run out of food because they were like getting rid of the food stamps and stuff like that. But then also was talking about, like, oh, but I support this and this, like you could hear his mom and dad talking through
Yeah.
it. And just
Yeah.
making sure that I like don't feed into yes, that's good or no, it's bad,
Mhm.
whatever side, just letting him talk and bring up his fears and not trying to be like, hey, also, you should be thinking this or that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Um, yeah, I like that you mentioned I forgot. I was like, oh, that was really good, and then I just wanted to say it. Trauma, like trauma informed. I had to take classes in that, and I have the like certificate
mhm.
in trauma informed care that Tennessee Tech gives, and I really liked those classes
Yeah.
that I had to take to get that. I was like every time they even just like address different topics, I was like, that's a great way to look. Like everybody should be doing this. Like, how is this not?
Just our
Like,
normal thinking.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I took
And then
classes on a thing called neurosequential models in education, and it's all about the neuroscience and the trauma and how it impacts. So it's really made a difference in the way I think.
yeah, because there's physical changes too. It's not just emotional changes. Like it literally affects
Mhm.
your pathways. So,
Mhm.
and my second question is, I was really hung up on how respectful and responsive all the students were, because she would ask a question, they would all raise their hand, and they would get called on, and then she'd say, "If you would like to help a friend, you can," and they'd all be looking around for someone to help.
Mhm.
And that's just, I was like, whoa. So, what's kind of a strategy that you use if your students aren't behaving like that? If that makes
And
sense.
not surprisingly, like my kids aren't always the most
Right.
respectful people, but I try to, in the moment, just be like, let's be kind, let's
Mhm.
be nice. But afterward, I try to pull whoever was being disrespectful to the side one on one because
Mhm.
my kids, like all kids, but especially my kids, do not like to be called out in front of people. It kind of ups they're like, oh, I have to up the ante and be
Mhm.
worse now. So I try to pull
Mhm.
them out to the side and be like, let's talk about this and just, hey, think about where this kid is coming from. Like I had an eighth grader that would get mad at my sixth grader last year, and I'd be like, you're in eighth grade and he's in
Yeah.
sixth. So what are some things we can do? So I try to pull them aside and then get them to kind of empathize with how what they're saying is making that other person feel.
Yeah. That's good. I like that.